Oh, jeez. Blankets beside me, because, yeah, I've been sleeping on this couch for the last little bit. Oh my god. What a way to start the video, hey? Alright. So today, as you probably can see, if you can't see the shirt, it's a shirt of Michael Myers, which unfortunately I was not able to wear to go see the movie, but it is what it is. Well, what was I going to say? Today, we are obviously reviewing Halloween Ends, which I feel like was a fitting ending to the series. Now, obviously, I feel like there could have been a couple different. Now, if I don't want to say there should have been a couple different things done with the movie, but if I was writing the movie myself, I think I would have written the ending slightly differently, and we'll get into that in a bit. But this was definitely a different direction than I thought they were going to go with the final part of this movie. I wasn't expecting them to end up adding a whole nother character. What is happening right now? A whole nother character into the movie. That was definitely a very unexpected twist at the end, or twist in the beginning for sure. Because I was expecting when the guy was babysitting the kid for Michael to come out of somewhere, like maybe he was going to start in this house and kind of work his way through the movie, but not at all. Not at all when it actually ended up happening. So Rohan Campbell played Corey, who became this, became like this kid who ends up, um, accidentally murdering the child he was babysitting, and I guess kind of becomes the monster that, everybody, like, he becomes the monster that everybody creates in this movie, which is kind of weird. So this is supposed to be 4 years after Halloween Kills, which is almost why I think Halloween Kills probably could have been split into two parts, and this probably could have been a four-part series, because at the end of that movie, it seemed to me like Michael was at his strongest, because even though he gets, even though he gets kind of somewhat defeated at the end, he still is able to, he still manages to get back up and kill the whole group of people that has surrounded him, and still somehow gets back into the house to kill Karen, Laurie's daughter. So in this movie, it's just Laurie, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, and Allison, played by Andi uh, Matichuk, I want to say, who is, yeah, oh my god, good lord, who's Laurie's granddaughter? Wow, my train of thought this morning. Good god. And then James Jude Courtney played the Shape, or as we know him, Michael Myers. So Laurie is writing a book based on, I guess, her experiences with everything, seeing as, I suppose, the original Michael Myers is supposed to be, like Michael Myers is supposed to be gone. He hasn't seen in 4 years, so nobody's really thinking that he's ever going to come back, right? And one of the things that I was surprised about was that somehow Sandra, Diva Tyler from the other movie, which was one of the, I think the house where Michael chose his knife the very first time, and he's like stabbing the husband and leaves her to bleed out in the second movie. She somehow survived, and so I guess they kind of blame Laurie for what happened, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But in this movie, it kind of felt like they were almost making Laurie the scarier of the two, and Michael was somehow weaker, which I didn't really understand that concept, but I guess we kind of got to see, like, from the kills, how he became slightly more powerful, and I suppose maybe at this point that um, that maybe the direction they were trying to go with this film was that like Laurie was Michael Myers' boogeyman instead of the other way around, even though obviously the way they played it was that Michael Myers was still Laurie's boogeyman, and she even mentions it at the end of the movie in her book about how like evil doesn't disappear, just changes shape, because as we go throughout this movie, Corey, who ends up dating Allison, which kind of shows some deep-rooted issues within Allison herself, because the she's falling for a person who's very similar to Michael in a sense, and I think Laurie definitely kind of starts to realize the patterns that's happening, and she tries to get Allison to come to her side and say to her, like, hey, by the way, like he's reminding me a lot of he's reminding me a lot of Michael, like the way Michael was when he was younger, and it's just, yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense as to why she's falling for a guy like that, but I guess she thinks that she can, kind of save him in a sense. But obviously that's not going to work. He's already down the dark path. He's already met Michael. Michael let him live, and he even asks Allison about that. And it kind of seems to me like obviously he was not trying to let Allison live. She just got lucky a couple of times with her encounters, obviously between her and Michael. So yeah, I would say that he was definitely trying to kill her and Laurie for sure in the first movie, and obviously when he's trying to track them down in the second movie, he's trying to do the exact same thing. But then the group of them that used to hang out together obviously put a little bit of a damper on that. But I mean, he gets everybody else. The only thing that I would say that I would have done differently in this movie was I would have left it at the end with just Laurie and Allison at the end, rather than like Frank is still alive somehow, and Lindsay, who was played by Kyle Richards, is still alive. And yeah, Frank, played by Will Patton. Now, I would have killed the two of them off, because it just doesn't, it almost seems weird that they left the two of them alive with Laurie and Allison to me. That's what I would have changed. I would have somehow written in their deaths, while Michael was on his way to get Laurie, to have the final battle with Laurie, why he didn't stop to kill the two of them when they were also part of the original group. Like, it just kind of, that part didn't make sense to me, why the two of them were left alive when it's called Halloween Ends, right? It should have been just Allison and Laurie, or even just Laurie by the end of the movie. For me, anyway. But I guess it was kind of interesting to see how Michael seemingly kind of was passing on his powers to Corey, and kind of teaching him the way to be a killer. And one thing I did notice was the clown mask, which, um, which, if I'm remembering correctly, is what Michael wore when he was a kid, when he killed his family. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that was in the original movie. It wasn't just part of the. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was in the original movie and not just the Rob Zombie remakes, if I'm remembering correctly. Wow, I'm gonna have to go back and watch the original now, because I'm pretty sure that was in the original movie, him killing his family, was it not? My God, I hope it was anyway. If not, I'm totally just blurring all the lines together between the movies. But it isn't, however, the first time we've seen uh, like someone who is connected with Michael obviously go down the same path, right? We've seen that in the other movies, even though this one isn't supposed to consider any of the other movies besides the first one, the original from, what is it, 1978, I think, or maybe even earlier than that. uh, so yeah, this is just supposed to be the first one, and then these three movies, because I guess this is the way they wanted to do the series originally, I suppose. Or maybe they felt like this was the proper way to finally end it. Uh, Even though I think, regardless of what happened in the other, so many movies, I still think they could have probably ended it this way. But hey, they chose to write the story this way now, so I guess that's kind of fitting for how it went. But yeah, Corey going down the path he went down, especially seeing as he just kind of embraced who he was. Now, I guess his first kill was technically the homeless guy under the bridge, who I guess sort of knew Michael was living there. And then when Corey goes down, uh, was it when? I guess it was when Corey gets thrown over the bridge, gets dragged down the tunnel by Michael, and then he meets Michael, and Michael does seem weaker, and then he gets into it in the diner with Allison's ex, who was a cop, and then Allison's ex follows him down there, and that was Michael's first kill. And then Corey goes back and steals the mask from him, and he kills the doctor that was mean to Allison and her nurse friend. And what was her nurse friend's name? And then he kills the bullies that bullied him at the beginning of the movie, who I believe were Michael Barbary, who played Terry, Destiny Moan, who played Stacy, Joey Harris, who played Margot, and just Martine, who played Billy. So he kills the four of them in his dad's, I guess, kind of auto body shop, or auto shop, or whatever you want to call it. It was like a half scrapyard, half mechanics. Yeah, half scrapyard, half mechanic type deal. That's the way I kind of looked at it anyway. And he had a very weird relationship with his mom, Corey did, and his dad seemed, yeah, kind of like a weird middle ground for him, like made a couple jokes with him throughout the movie, but was also strict with him when it came to work because I guess his dad was his boss. So, yeah, Corey ends up killing the four of them, and does he kill his dad in the process too? I can't remember. But when he kills the doctor who was mean to Allison, Michael is already in the house, and Michael kills the other girl. And that was one of the scenes that I was really excited about because we got to see the whole, pinning to the wall kill. And then when Allison and him are hanging out at one point, he actually does talk about killing somebody, but I think he was trying to talk about the homeless guy, but he ends up taking it to the house that he accidentally killed the kid at. And then he kind of keeps going back there, and Laurie confronts him in the house at one point about it. And that's when she tries to warn Allison about what she thinks is going on, but he's kind of convinced Allison to leave. And then Laurie knows there's somebody in the house. She can sense it. So she makes the call to say that she's going to commit suicide, but she's actually faking it, and she shoots Corey. And at this point, he's already got the mask because he's stolen it from Michael. So, and he kills the radio host too. I forgot about that one. That one was the most brutal because he just is smashing his head off the record player and stuff, and then cuts out his tongue. Oh, that one was just. Whew, there were some brutal kills, even though this one wasn't nearly as many as I think the previous two. I think Corey had more kills than Michael did in the end, even though at the end of the movie, Michael is the one that kills Corey because he goes, "Hey, you stole my mask, give that back, that's mine, I'm the real killer here." And I think that was kind of even though he might have been sort of passing on the torch, I think Corey took it a step too far when he decided that he was going to go and kind of take it upon himself instead of working as a team, right? That might have been a better idea in the end, because I think it was, yeah, he tries to stab himself or whatever, and then, yeah, I think Michael just snaps his neck because I don't think he was completely dead, but it is what it is. If I'm remembering that scene correctly, I'm pretty sure that's how it goes down. Michael ends up just killing him in the end. So yeah, but what happened to Allison in that? Oh right, she leaves. That's it. because she sees Laurie holding the knife when she comes in, and she goes, "Oh my God, like, how could you do that to him?" Blah 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 blah. But turns out it wasn't Laurie who did it at all. He did it himself because he had broken into the house, and I don't know how Allison couldn't see that as what had actually happened. But hey, I guess she was kind of infatuated by him and thought she was I think she felt a connection to him because everybody looked at him as an outcast, and she kind of felt like an outcast for what had been happening to her over the last two movies, and everybody kind of shunned her and Laurie for what they did, but it really had nothing to do with them because it's not like she was provoking Michael, right? Michael was obviously after her in the prison transport in the first movie, and then what happened in the second movie obviously was kind of out of Laurie's control, even though they were after one another, right? But yeah, so then obviously the big, huge fight between Laurie and Michael at the end of the movie was absolutely epic. It seemed almost like, I don't know, the end seemed almost somewhat too easy for Laurie to kill Michael. Honestly, I was kind of hoping that Michael would maybe finish everybody off at the end of this movie, and he would just kind of be satisfied with that, and maybe he would finally die by the hands of somebody else. But it also is fitting that he dies at the hands of Laurie, and I guess Allison as well comes in and kind of breaks his arm, and then he gets pinned to the table, and she cuts his throat, and then she cuts his wrist, and kind of lets him bleed out, and then they take him through the town and put him through a giant meat grinder. So there is no way in hell, unless he's like Chucky, that he is coming back from that. Like, that should be the end of at least this series. I mean, down the road, if somebody else decides that they want to write a Halloween movie, like, this is going to be the end of, obviously, Jamie Lee Curtis being in any Halloween movie, which I think is fitting. So, yeah, I actually did really enjoy this movie. Obviously, not as good as the first one in this series. I think that'll probably be the better one out of all three. And if I'm remembering correctly, I think I rated that one a 10 out of 10. So we'll just see. How, yeah, just kind of comparing them, how I rated them. I'm pretty sure I rated this one a 10. Wow, I can't even, yeah, I don't even have it there. But I'm pretty sure this one was my favorite out of all three of them, if I'm remembering correctly. Now I'm going to have to go back and actually watch that video to see what I actually rated that movie. But anyway, this one I rated an 8 out of 10 because I thought it was tied with the second one. Now that I've gone back and watched the second one, I feel like this one is tied with the second one for sure. And she is able to get her book out and done, so I was happy about that. And I think this will probably, yeah, by the end of it, it definitely, Laurie and Allison were brought together closer, even though it was a series of unfortunate circumstances throughout this movie and obviously the rest of it. But he had this whole burn it to the ground complex with Allison throughout the movie, and she just kind of followed along with that because I think she was ready to kind of leave Haddonfield behind and kind of go and live her own life, even though after obviously killing Michael, that's what she does anyway, because there's no more boogeyman, there's no more people after them. She can go and live freely somewhere else, and obviously Laurie, it looks like Laurie and Frank are going to end up getting together at the end of this movie, which, oh my god, friggin' 40 years later, man, like they finally seal the deal with that relationship at the end of this movie. So happy for them there. And then it shows a shot of the mask inside Laurie's house. So I guess she kind of maybe kept it as a memento, which seems kind of weird to me, but it is what it is. And then somebody said something about an end credit scene, but I looked stuff up on YouTube and couldn't find anything, so I don't believe that there was. But anyway, yeah, 8 out of 10 for this movie. I think I've kind of discussed my feelings on it, and yeah, how I would have written the ending differently. I think I went over that. Yeah, like I would have just left it. Yeah, I did go over that. So yeah, that's it for this review, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye for now.